Yeah, buddy. It's officially week 1. The Chargers are on the plate. We got to take a look at how the Chiefs are going to get there. Hope you enjoyed your holiday, but now it's on. We're going to get onto the details today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome
finally
back,
here.
everybody. Yeah, right? It's time. Hope you all enjoyed your holiday weekend. I enjoyed mine. Chris, how was yours? I hope it was fun.
It was good. It was good.
I'm glad to hear it, folks. Now it's real. We're going to get into it today. We are brought to you today by PrizePicks. It's the easiest daily fantasy you can ever do. Pick 2 to 5 players, pick their over-unders, and make some money. First-time users get 100% deposit, instant deposit match with the promo code LOCKEDON. We'll tell you more about them coming up later. But this is a lot to get ready for. Some transactions to start the week, quote unquote, even though we're a day late. We're going to get into it all. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL 33, and RGR Football. Let's get after it.
It is time to get after it. I am Chris Clark, founder of Chiefs Corner. You can find me over there. Lots to talk about going into this week. It is finally football season. I am just absolutely ecstatic right now. I cannot wait for the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I am pretty pumped. It was a long weekend for me, back and forth and sporting events and that kind of thing. And then I finally got a day or two at the lake. And ignore the sunburn here, folks. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's going to be all right. But that
I couldn't tell the difference because of all the other red. But,
Yeah, well, I turn the beard too. It works. The big thing for me is that's kind of like the signal for me. Like, all right, you can have your downtime the last weekend before the regular season. That's my normal process. And so now it's on. And unlike years in the past, like to have transactions that are meaningful the first week are a little bit rare. We're going to talk about prep for the offense and the defense and what needs to come and what needs to be built on from the preseason. But the thing that we've been waiting for finally happened late on Monday.
Yeah, Blake Bell went to IR, and Andy Reid hinted about it in his press conference, so not really shocking that he was going to IR. I think we thought this move was coming right after the moves last week, like the day after all the original cuts. But Kansas City waited a week, and the question is who's going to be the guy that they're going to bring up to the 53? I would imagine it's going to be somebody from the practice squad. That's just a guess. I would guess Therese Fountain if I was a betting man, but we'll see.
Could be Elijah Lee too. A lot of speculation about that coming on. So it just depends on how they feel about the special teams this week. And Dave Tobe is going to pretty much, I guess, get his choice. Both guys would play for him on the special teams, but it's going to depend on what he feels he needs the most. Arizona is an interesting matchup, but they've had a lot of turmoil. Chiefs have had a lot of changes. Now they're changing Blake Bell out. They're going to get somebody new. And he also said that specifically that you're going to see both Jody Fortson and Noah Gray do some of the things that Bell did. It looks like it's going to be a little bit more Gray doing the blocking type thing, the behind the line of scrimmage H-back type deal, which is exactly what I would expect. Did that jive with what you were thinking?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense that Gray is going to be that guy. He is the guy that's played tight end a lot longer, and Fortson is still trying to get to that point where he can be that type of blocker. And I think he's doing better in that regard, but he's not anywhere close to even Travis Kelce's ability to block right now.
Yeah, it's going to be challenging, I think, to kind of like fit both players, fit that mold. But the upsides outside of that particular role, I think, are plentiful for both of them. Obviously, we've seen Jody Fortson really have maybe the best preseason of a non-Travis Kelce tight end that we've seen in a long time. Can he sustain that? That's something we'll talk about on the offensive side. But physicality, he's healthy. That's super important. He's not the only one that's healthy, though, because a couple other things guys got back today that they're going to be ready for this week 1 against the Cardinals.
Yeah, you have all the wide receivers back. That's huge. You have Trent McDuffie back. That's huge. Everybody practiced. Everybody's getting ready for this game on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. And it's a game that Kansas City needs to start off hot in and win convincingly. And I say that because you look at the short week coming back home to face the Chargers shortly after that Cardinals game. They have to start off with a win.
It's pretty imperative. We know that this gamut here to begin the season is pretty tough. And so this is a game that on paper shouldn't be the most difficult. Luke Hopkins isn't going to play. He's suspended. Everyone wants to talk up the return of Darrell Williams to face the Chiefs. I don't think that's going to be a huge X factor because I do think they're going to have to throw the ball after Mahomes in the offense puts up some points initially. But to have them back, most importantly out of that group for me is Trent McDuffie, because it was a little bit of a worrisome thing because he's been slated as a starter since day one after he got drafted. There's been no movement on that. You know that you need him. And then the concussion protocol is always like a foggy kind of thing, right?
Yep.
When will they get back? I'm relieved sitting here knowing that Trent's back at practice and going to be good to go.
Yeah, no, I think I'm relieved as well for that. MVS is back from his concussion protocol as well. I think that both those guys are going to be key pieces in this game on Sunday, and I do look forward to seeing both of them on the field because they change what Kansas City can do on offense and on defense. And Kansas City is going to have to show a lot of different things this year. It was really interesting. I had a fantasy draft over the weekend, and everybody was talking about how Kansas City's team is going to take a step back. And I'm just sitting here going, if you look at the wide receiver group this year versus what it was last year, it's head and shoulders above what last year's unit was, even with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I mean, and that fantasy-wise, that's probably a debacle because you don't know who to pick, right?
Well, no, absolutely. Absolutely, that's correct.
But having more options is good.
Exactly. Right. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about options. I'm talking about the fact that Mahomes doesn't have to go to one guy because that's the only guy that's going to be open. And yes, Tyreek Hill can do amazing things, but now you have MVS, now you have Juju, now you have Sky Moore, now you have Hardman, now you have Travis Kelce and Fortson. That's 6 legitimate weapons, and yeah, I'll throw all 6 of them in there that I think can catch the ball and be really dangerous with it. And that doesn't even count any of the running backs.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what happens. We're going to talk about the offense and what the defense needs to capitalize on what we've seen to this point here coming up later. But I got to tell you, our newest sponsor and our pals over at PrizePicks, they really got something new cornered that you really want to get in on. It comes down to a couple of questions. Will Patrick Mahomes go over 305.5 yards, or will he go under? Will Josh Allen break 275? And by the way, that tells you a little bit about expectations between the two quarterbacks. It's over under. That's it. That's all you got to know. All you have to do to play the newest version of daily fantasy football is to do that. Pick 2 to 5 players, pick their over or their under versus the PrizePicks projection. You can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against people or other lineups or making decisions. It's just over under you versus the projections, and it's always available. PrizePicks offers projections on not just the NFL, but college football, as well as things as small and foreign to me as cricket and disc golf betting. No idea how you go about that. Entries are made in 60 seconds or less, and it's super easy. It's safe and fast withdrawals, and currently it's operational in 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com and sign up for your daily fantasy sports. All first-time users get 100% deposit match. You put in 100, you get 100 with our promo code Locked On. Then you pick those lines, over, unders, set your lineup, and you're good to go. Again, that's 100% on your deposit bonus, equaling it. Don't forget, you have to use that code. So go to prizepicks.com and use Locked On to get that deal right now before week 1. Before week 1 is what we're doing. And a couple of takeaways that we could probably spot from the preseason. What stands out to you the most that they have to take from what little they showed us and roll it over into the regular season?
I think using the use of their tight ends. And I know you talked about Jody Fortson earlier, but it wasn't just Jody Fortson. They tried to get Noah Gray involved. They got Noah Gray the ball, and Mahomes was looking for him on a busted coverage. And Gray showed that he was able to come back to the ball and make a good play on it. And getting, Bushman, even though he's not on this roster, still pushing the ball to the tight end and getting the ball to that position when it wasn't Travis Kelce is something that I think is important for this offense, because Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. He's going to get his yards. He's going to have a great year, in my opinion. But you're sitting here in a situation where you have other guys that can now handle some of that load that Travis has been carrying for the past couple of years. And any opportunity that they have to lessen Kelce's load at times is going to be very beneficial for the playoffs.
Yeah, I cannot argue with you. Like the more help you can give him and the more distraction you can give defenses away from him, I think, again, that goes back to what we were talking about with the receiver group. Like, there's just more things you have to do.
think about I'm not saying that he's not going to get his catches, but think if he takes 20 or 30 less hits this year because of the other tight ends.
Yeah.
And the wide receiver group too, but also just because of the tight ends, because they can put Fortson in, they can put Gray in, and they can have him do, distraction and be a guy that's, a decoy of sorts and use Fortson and Gray to do other things that will get them the hits that Kelsey would normally take. And he's been very good about, staying out of injuries and all that. So I think he'll be fine, but you don't want to put any more wear and tear on that body than you have to.
Absolutely. And the more you do that, it more takes away from when you do want to go to Travis and you have those guys in the field, because you demonstrated defenses that will go away from him when we have to. That, I think, will give him a little bit more space to work with. And anybody that's over 30 in this league could always use a little bit more space. That there's no way around that. I think the other thing that will help that is what I think they have to do in emphasizing play action seems to, I think, at least be set up a little bit more from the volume that they ran running plays called in the preseason. Now, that's not just me wishful thinking, folks. I know you guys know how I feel about the run game and what I want, but I do feel like they had opportunity to throw the ball more than they did, especially week 3, and they chose not to. So I wonder if it's not just, hey, we're going to get tuned up here, and maybe we're going to do this whole thing. You know that saying about let's put on sheep's clothing and hide the wolf a little bit. So if you show them run and you take these next couple of weeks and you show them run and you show them run, all of a sudden, that's how you get teams to come out of a too high shell. And then it's on, and Patrick has what he wants, single high again.
Well, and I would take it a step further and say that it's even more probable in my mind that they tried to run the ball a little bit more against Arizona than they would normally do, because I think that it's in their best interest to try to surprise the Chargers in week 2 as much as they possibly can. And, if you're focusing on the running game because that's what they did against Arizona, then, I know the Chargers have this great vaunted defense that everybody wants to talk about, that they're going to be oh so great. Could they be great? Yeah, they could be great. Are they going to be? Let's see what happens with injuries, because they've had a rash of them, and if they do not stay healthy, that defense isn't going to be as good as people think. And really quick, I want to go back just for a second and say the one thing that I love most for Fortson and Gray is that they both get the opportunity to learn behind a guy like Travis Kelsey, who is mentoring them and is showing them the ropes and where to sit down in zones and how to take advantage of what they're going to see on the field.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I'll go you one step farther too. It's not just what they're putting on film for the Chargers. I would do things specifically for the Chargers. Not only would I run between the tackles a little bit more, but I got to see a pop pass against the Cardinals to make the Chargers spend time learning to defend it. I have to see the fullback wheel, because going back to Sherm a few years ago, the Chargers are sensitive to that, right? So you got to show them a stab at it just to make them practice and throw them off, really disrupt what they want to do by putting things on film that they have to pay attention to against the Cardinals.
And honestly, if I was Kansas City, I would bring in the jumbo package a couple of times. I'd go 6 offensive linemen. And I'm not joking. I'm talking like you get in a 2nd and 1, you go, 6 offensive linemen. I know people are going to hate that because that's when you should be able to take a shot. But I want to be able to set things up for down the road. And I'm not worried necessarily about this Arizona Cardinal game. I think that Kansas City should be able to win it pretty handily, especially without Hopkins on the other side. So I am specifically looking to do things that are not going to be in the norm. Or if you're going to bring in jumbo, that's fine. Bring in jumbo and then throw the ball. Make it look like you're going to run and throw the ball. You can bring in two or three tight ends with your jumbo package, make it look like you're going to run, and you still have 3 tight ends that can catch the ball. Yeah. You're in a great position.
I think you are. And I like what you said about, not having to have Hopkins, because the defense is going to have to shift. And they get a little bit of a break there. There's a couple new guys out there on the Arizona offense. We'll get to that and what the defense needs to do here after this.
If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. I absolutely love Built Bar, and the Built Bar Puffs are fantastic. There is a new flavor, delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right, Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your favorite flavor. Cookie dough chunk puff has a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course they're 100% covered in real chocolate. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Like all Built Bars, the new cookie dough Chunk Puff is covered in 100% real chocolate. That means they're healthy and tasty chocolate-covered cookie dough with a light, fluffy texture. So good. You're going to love the new cookie dough Chunk Puff. Whether you need a snack for a workout, a late-night treat, or just to grab a quick bite, Built is the perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 at Built.com.
Now, as we turn the defense towards some of the matchups we're going to see, and we'll talk heavy matchups later in the week, folks, specifically one-on-ones, but in generalities, for the Chiefs defense, knowing that they're going to start at least one rookie corner, as well as a newcomer at the primary safety spot, possibly another rookie at the third safety spot, which we know they like to go to. Will they need to? I'm not 100% yet. But if Rashad Fenton isn't 100%, you could have three rookies out there in the defensive backfield in the dime. That's going to be interesting. Now, no nuke helps. So, like, you get off to a start that I think can be decent without that because of all that youth out there. But Rondale Moore's out there. He's going to be tough. He's going to line up in the slot most of the time, but LJ Sneed will take him, and L'Jarius is certainly ready to deal with that. He's got the speed to keep up with him for the most part. It then becomes a question of the height advantage from Green and his leaping ability, if his leaping ability is still there. AJ Green is in Arizona, folks, if you missed that, Mark. And obviously Marquise Brown went over there this offseason. Speed there. So then it becomes about Fenton and McDuffie, like, how do they get challenged? And I think, again, if you can focus on what you're going to do in a singular matchup versus a type without having to worry about nuke being nuke, I think that really helps the young secondary get off the ball.
I think it really does, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think I'm really excited to see what this young secondary can do. And you're right, if they end up having to start Williams because Fenton isn't available, that's a problem. I think they're still going to be good enough to win this game, but that's still a problem if you have to start your rookie as opposed to Fenton, who I think is, shown that he can play in this league and shown that he can be a valuable contributor on this team. I will also take it a step further and say that one of the keys to this game is going to be if the Chiefs pass rush can show up and how much they show up. And I know we talk about pass rush a lot, but the bigger key here isn't necessarily just that they get after the quarterback and they hit him and they get sacks. It's that they also have to contain him. If Kyler Murray is a guy that is going to win on his legs, if you cannot contain him, that is going to be a problem.
Yeah. And there's another position group we're going to talk about later in the week that I want to emphasize a little bit. That's going to have to help out on that, especially when you talk about the fact that you're going to get Carlos Dunlap, if healthy, and George Karlaftis on Kelvin Beachum, their right tackle. He is slated to start, as we understand right now. That's a matchup both those guys can win, but in different ways. And if you do that, you have to be fully cognizantly aware that, hey, if you dip too close inside, if you take that inside corner, he will bounce it out and take huge chunks of yards on the outside. So it's almost like you have to, pass rush at 90% so that you can get full extension. This plays in George Karlaftis' style where he's at least a pull arm or a two-hand kind of power move so he can stay and shed and not give up that outside corner that Murray can then duck around and take off screaming.
Yeah, and it's going to be huge. If you can stop Murray, if you can at least keep him from getting to 50 yards rushing, I think that this game becomes a lot more manageable and a lot easier for Kansas City to win on defense. You have to remember this defense, though, looked pretty good in the preseason. I know it's preseason football, but they didn't allow a single point. Now, they weren't really facing great offenses, so we'll see if that trend continues. And I'm not saying Arizona's going to be a great offense. I think they have the players to be a good offense. Mm-hmm. Great will come when Hopkins comes back, and we'll see if they can take another step forward. Because right now, I don't think that they're right now.
Yeah,
I don't think they have the weapons for it.
I think I agree with you. Now, it's going to be really interesting to see how they match up. There is a prime matchup at the tight end spot that we're going to talk about later in the week, folks. It comes down to me about how do you manipulate that offensive line, not necessarily just with the edges, but Chris Jones against Rodney Hudson helping out his guards. I think that's going to be probably the key matchup because that's the best way to make sure that you're not like flushing Murray out purposefully is to get pressure in his face, knowing that the edges are kind of containing a bit. It's back to Pee Wee football. You know what I mean?
Well, and I wonder if they bring up a guy like Shelton. I don't think Shelton's going to be ready for this game, but if he would be ready, I would wonder if they would use a guy like Shelton, because you're going to have one of the best centers in the game at that position. And if you had a chance to put in Shelton, having Rodney Hudson have to handle Shelton and double team puts Chris Jones almost in a great
win-win-win-win-win situation.
Right. And I'm not saying Derek Nottie can't do some of that. It's just not the same.
I don't know, but I think Turk Wharton probably can't do some of that in relief for Chris. I think there will be times where you want two pass rushers at the tackle spots because, like you said, I don't know if Shelton will be ready. It's going to be very interesting to see.
I'm just looking at the size differential. With Shelton's size, you have to double team him.
Yeah.
You have to. So if that's the situation, then you're leaving Chris on an island one-on-one, and he's going to win that matchup.
And it doesn't matter if Danny's head up. Like, he can be in a slanted one technique. You still got to give him center attention. So that takes away from anything they can try to throw Chris Jones, other than having the tackle come crashing down and try to leave a tight end and a running back kind of conversation to try and stop Frank Clark.
But that's a win for Kansas City too, because you're in a situation then where not only are you getting a tight end or a running back on Frank Clark, but you're also taking more people out of the route tree. So it's win-win-win.
Less targets is good.
Yep.
Folks, we want to know what you want to hear about. We're going to go through what these matchups are. And later in the week, we're also going to get to the point where we talk about the fact that it's a very fast turnover to the Chargers game. So you're going to hear Cardinals and Chargers spoken about as Weebles, as dominoes, because they are so closely related to begin this season. So leave your comments on the YouTube page on this video itself. Let us know what you want to hear about more. Leave it in the Spotify and the Apple reviews. We appreciate that. Thanks for your time. Check out PrizePicks. I think you guys are going to dig it. We appreciate your time. We'll be back with you tomorrow.